So this year has been an exciting year in terms of camera releases. We got the C400 that came out, as well as the Canon R5 II. Blackmagic has announced finally a box style camera that is at an affordable rate, along with a new high-end cinema camera. And Panasonic came out with the GH7, and they get a chance to put Log as well as internal 32-bit float, phase detection, autofocus, and so much more on the camera. But is Panasonic done? Rumors say no. They still got one more camera announcement that is going to happen anywhere in the next couple of weeks to possibly the next month. Many people are suspecting, including friends of my own, that it's going to be the S1H II. Today, I'm going to talk about what are some things based on what Panasonic has announced in terms of features from other cameras, and what things they have said in other interviews, and what I ultimately think will be coming with this potential S1H II. All that and more, tune in today. What's going on, everybody? My name is James Jackson. If you're new here, I do tips, tricks, news, and reviews for the film and video making industry. So if this is content that you like, definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can stay up to date on all the content going forth. So I was scrolling the internet, and it looks like there's more rumors coming about that Panasonic is still got at least one more camera to announce this year. I've read up on some people's thoughts, and I've also listened to some of my good friend Simon, Ordinary Filmmaker's thoughts on potentially what has come. So I want to just dive into the video that my buddy Simon came out with first, where he talked about he had a source that Panasonic is planning to release the S1H II, supposedly, again, still rumored, sometime in the latter half of September, as we're going into middle of October. Now, the question I guess everybody eyes is, when is a good time to expect that announcement? Well, there's, interestingly enough, two events that are happening around those timeframes. The first one is the bigger one, and probably one of the biggest events or conferences involving specifically in the video broadcast area, and that is IBC. So first of all, what is IBC? Well, IBC stands for the International Broadcast Conference. Very simple, if it seems. But essentially, this is probably one of the largest conventions and largest gatherings of professional people in the video and broadcasting world. So this is typically where you would sort of keep an eye out for more video-oriented cameras, things like more like the Sony FX line of cameras, or the Canon Cinema line of cameras. Sometimes you'll see stuff like Blackmagic announce stuff like that. So given the fact that Panasonic is typically more of a video-oriented with their mirrorless cameras, it makes sense, given the fact that they are one of the cameras that really pushed 10-bit to the forefront for consumer-based cameras. This seems like the most logical sense. Now, the event is supposed to take place in Amsterdam between September 13th and September 15th, if I remember correctly, which is roughly around the middle of September, where Simon's rumor is supposed to come about. The next one that would most likely be the case of where we might hear this is NAB New York, which is supposed to take place between October 8th and October 10th. So again, in that time frame. But NAB New York is very unlikely to be the place of this announcement, just given the fact it's a much smaller convention. There's typically there you get more smaller announcements, not like major big event announcements like a camera or anything like that. So for me, at least, IBC, if Panasonic is going to announce the successor of the S1H, which is their main big key flagship video-oriented camera, IBC makes the most sense for all of this. So I would say roughly around probably the 9th, September 9th, and so on. I would just start paying attention, maybe start paying attention, seeing if rumors start circulating that they will be announcing a camera around those times. Just my guess. Again, I also should point out these are all still just rumors. This is nothing about it is true. But of course, we're techie gears. We love to talk about camera gear, but just keep that in mind that all this could be a grain of salt, because one of the other things Simon talked about is that there really was no information in terms of specifications. So if it's the S1H, what should we expect? Well, first, I think we should start off with what has been said from Panasonic's executives and Panasonic spokespersons previously. So the number one thing that I think everybody should point out is that they basically were really emphasizing that 8K there isn't really a market yet for 8K, so they're not going to emphasize on building an 8K camera. So that tells me they're not going to really try to focus on getting a 45, 50 high resolution megapixel sensor. Most likely, this will be another 24, maybe bump it up maybe at best 30 to a 30 megapixels, maybe go to 20 or 26, 27, 28, maybe. But all likelihood is that it's going to be a 24 megapixel again from Panasonic. I would be very curious to know what you guys think about that. If you look at now, we've got starting from the S1, the S1H, the S5, the S5 II, the S5 IIX, the S9, all like six cameras, all with a 24 megapixel sensor. Would that be enough for you guys? I'm really curious to know what you guys think. So definitely leave your comments down below. And by the way, if you haven't done so already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell notifications to really help us out with the algorithms and help us get this content out to more people. Personally, I'm just like, look, if they're not ready for 8K, don't try to push it. Like, I think Panasonic so far has really nailed a lot of the little things. And that to me is just me personally, is a more valuable thing than a bump in resolution. I think if they could continue improving the little things, so adding, obviously, the number one thing that they're going to obviously add is phase detection autofocus. That will absolutely be the highlight key feature. I think they will add 32-bit internal recording with obviously their little external module that you attach that will be an additional cost, but it will be 32-bit internal recording. That's the other thing. Given the fact that Nikon has now, bought out Red, I expect potentially maybe I expect ProRes to be internal of this camera, possibly even ProRes RAW. We'll see. But those are the things that potentially will be a bump into the camera. Lastly, I think it's given the fact of the rave of Arilog in the Panasonic GH7. I most definitely expect that we will see Arilog C in the Panasonic S1H. I think Panasonic is going to market this camera as the go-to compact camera as an alternative if you're shooting on set with an Arri Alexa. So you can be able to put this camera with its mirrorless body in places that it will take much more expensive and much more costly to put something like an Alexa LF. You could put it in cars, you could put it in tight spaces, you could get it closer. I think that, or maybe do it for travel. Maybe have it more as a travel Arri Alexa LF. I think that's the market and that's the aim that Panasonic is going to target the S1H II. To me, those are all things that I expect to come with this camera, just given the fact that they've incorporated all this stuff, as well as their great IBIS. I expect all of this to be incorporated into this camera. The real question, there's really two questions for me left. Are they going to put CF Express Type B cards in the S1H II? To me, that should be a given. Limiting this camera to just SD cards will be, to me, a humongous mistake. I think CF Express Type B cards should be a foregone conclusion, but they haven't implemented that in any of their full frame cameras yet. So it is yet to be seen, but that is my expectation. The last question that I think that only remains is, will they put a stacked sensor to help reduce some of that rolling shutter? Those to me are the only two questions, and maybe we'll be able to shoot 4K 60 up to 60 frames a second. I don't expect to be able to shoot 6K 60 frames a second in ProRes. It would be amazing, and I will be shocked, and I will be pleasantly surprised, but I don't expect that. I expect, in terms of the open gate in 6K 60 frames a second, to be essentially the same as it was with the 10-bit 420 options. I don't expect ProRes options for those. The question is that going to be enough to get people to switch over, to really expand their market? And I don't know if that is at this point, because right now we are in a market that really is, one, oversaturated with high quality cameras in from multiple different brands. So that's number one. And then number two, there's still ecosystem things with the L mount ecosystem, as well as just lenses that, to me, um, will make it very, very difficult for people to switch from a Sony or a Canon. Maybe people that are in like Blackmagic, as Blackmagic is just entering the L mount, maybe they'll look there. But in terms of the big three, Nikon, Sony, Canon, I I don't know how much of a dent they're going to make into those markets if this is their big flagship camera for some time. But these are just my opinions. I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know. Leave your comments down below. And as always, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care, everyone.